Hi, and welcome to another episode of Disrupt Your Now. This show is for the entrepreneur who wants to shake things up, who wants to disrupt their own now. And even if you haven't started a business, you can learn ahead of time from the entrepreneurs that I have on my show. So thanks for joining us tonight. And I want to welcome Glenn Gonzales to the show. Glenn has started a disruptive jet company, private aviation company called Jet It. And I'm really excited that they're only like an hour from where I live. So it's always fun to me to have people who are kind of from the greater region. I always think it's fun to kind of show off our area. So he's out of Greensboro, North Carolina. I'm in Southern Virginia. So welcome to the show, Glenn. And I want you to give them a bit about your background, how you got to where you are, and how you came up with the idea for Jet It before we get into it.
Awesome. Well, Lisa, thank you for having me. Hello, everyone. Really excited to share the Jet It story with you all and talk about how we aim to be more of a disruptive force in private aviation. Jet It began really a long time before I even thought of the name Jet It, and with my co-founder, Vishal Hiremath. My background and experience, I started at the Air Force Academy and started flying airplanes after the Air Force Academy. I did a number of things there at the academy, but I always wanted to fly and didn't find out until my senior year that opportunity would present itself. Once I left the academy, I started flying. It's a year-long effort for pilot training. I transitioned from that to flying trainers, supersonic trainers for students going on to fly fighters and bombers. And then from there, I flew fighters myself. And the Air Force needs and my family needs met at a crossroads. And that was my introduction to business aviation, where I went to Gulfstream Aerospace.
Okay.
Shortly after that, I started selling airplanes. I missed the dynamic environment of flying fighters.
Yeah.
And I found myself selling airplanes, which was just as good, and maybe not as good, but as close. And that's where I saw an opportunity for a gap in the market where people were looking for more autonomy, more efficiency, transparency, and a cost-effective business model. And that's where Jet It was born.
That's awesome. And I love it because you recognized a problem, then you came up with the solution. Too many people try to do it backwards. They come up with a solution that they think is wonderful, and then they got to backtrack and try to figure out what the problem is that it solves. And so you went about it the right way. So I just want to point that out. Sometimes I like to pull out tidbits, point it out to the audience. So y'all remember that. Recognize the problem first and then come up with the solution. So
You're exactly right.
you were with Gulfstream when you recognized the problem initially?
It was actually at Honda Aircraft Company where I was selling airplanes, and it was a constant conversation with customers. Glenn, this is a great airplane. I love the airplane. It meets the needs for my family and I, but I don't want to own a whole airplane.
Yeah.
Can you help me find a partner? Can you help me offset my cost of ownership by managing an airplane or finding a management company? And as a salesman, your job is to get the job done or sell the airplane and meet the solutions or find a solution for the customer. So I was pulling all of these strings together, trying to hold them together. And if one breaks, the deal falls apart.
Right.
After running into that a number of times, I realized that I don't have to pull all of these strings together with people that are geolocated or in the same city, or maybe find the right management customer or management company to support a customer. I can pull all of these things together myself. And it was still going back to my job, which was selling airplanes, and creating a solution for the customer that was value-oriented, value-based. And that's where Jet It came about. And
I love that. Wait, I'm sorry. What'd you say?
I was just going to say, since then I've bought more airplanes than I ever sold, but I'll take that too.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think I read that y'all are Honda Jet's largest customer.
We are. We have 23 airplanes in operation in 3 geographic regions. So we're obviously here in the US. We're in Canada. We're also in Europe through Jet Club, which is our sister company run by my co-founder, Vishal Hiremath. So, and more expansion to come.
Awesome. You talked about pulling all the strings together. Yeah, it was your job to sell the aircraft, but in order to do that, you had to try to solve the problem for the customer so that they could buy it. But now you've pulled it all in together and you're addressing everything all at once, and it makes it so much easier for the customers than trying to find somebody to actually own it with.
Absolutely. I mean, it's so hard sometimes to find a win-win solution.
Mhm.
And then when you find that win-win solution, especially as an entrepreneur, if you're trying to set up and establish a business, you have to make sure that it's profitable. You have to
Yeah.
make sure that more money is coming in that is going out, and that you can support it through scaling and growth. We added 69 people to our organization last year, and we expect to double that number this year. So the growth is there, but we now have to make sure that we scale. We have to continue to be profitable. We've been profitable 3 years running for our U.S. operations, and so we're very excited about that, especially with all of the investing that we've been doing. But
Mhm.
that it's hard to find that win-win solution that then also makes profits for your business.
Yeah, and that's great that y'all have been profitable all along because you're bootstrapped, right? And maybe did a small amount of fundraising, but you didn't go all out and try to get lots of money out of Greensboro for economic development incentives and things like that. So that's
Yeah.
great. That in and of itself is a huge accomplishment, Glenn.
There's a saying in our industry: if you want to make $1 million in aviation, start with $1 billion. Well,
Yeah.
we're trying to flip that on its head, and we've been very focused and very disciplined about sticking to our business model, listening to what the market wants and needs. But that discipline began with taking 2 years to write out the business model, to make sure that every I was dotted, every T was crossed. And the good news about that is, it's proven that it works because there are people who are imitating our business. And of course, the best flattery is imitation. And so we're flattered by people mimicking and doing what we do.
Yeah, and Harvard Business School used y'all's business as a case study, right?
They did, and it was very interesting. It started in 2019, so we were very, very new as an organization. Only a couple of airplanes in operation. Not sure if I lost you.
No. Um,
Okay,
are you
I
still
think it was,
there?
I am still here. I'm sorry, I'm not sure what happened there.
Oh,
Um,
I don't know. Did I go away?
just briefly, but I think we're
Okay.
still live, so we're good.
Okay, yeah. Sorry,
But
y'all.
so Harvard wrote that case study on us, and was presented out in 2020. And so, as a young company, to have Harvard and a tenured professor at Harvard, Gary Pisano, who writes a lot about scaling and disruption, to write a case study on our young company. But not just to have this case study written about us, but for us to meet our metrics every step along the way that are talked about in that case. It's not all there. We had to hold some things back to make sure that we protected some of our proprietary information.
Yeah.
But the bones are there, and the structure is there, and we're excited that it's working for us. And we look forward to the second case study. Ideally, it's about us excelling and exceeding those expectations that we laid out in that original case study.
I'm sure it will be at the rate you're going now. And the fact that y'all took 2 years to develop the plan and dot every I and cross every T, and you've reached all of your goals, that shows that you were really methodical about thinking this through and looking at all the scenarios. So kudos to y'all.
Thank you. Thank you. I come from a background where in flying fighters, everyone who starts a mission with you has to go home with you. If they don't, that means they may not see their family that night.
Yeah.
So we planned every mission with meticulous detail, where we were so focused on the known threats, the unknown threats, and the unknown unknowns. And you have to mitigate every single one of
Mhm.
those threats that could potentially be in the case. That could be in business. That could be threats of other competitors. It could be threats with suppliers. It could be threats in the economy, or those unknown things that could just happen that you don't anticipate happening, that you could never anticipate happening.
Like
And you have to
COVID.
plan. Yes, like COVID. And so you have to mitigate those risks. And in the case of COVID, it's actually although it's been deathly for so many, it has been a positive force in aviation to
Yeah.
encourage people to do the inevitable, which is find more autonomy and efficiency in how they travel.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned the mission and, people coming home with you and so forth. And I just want to point out to the audience, that's a great example of the skill set and the experience that veterans bring to the table. Because I work with a lot of companies who like to hire veterans, and people sometimes don't understand how the skills translate over because there's a different vocabulary. And so that shows right there that what you did flying, people would think flying, oh, what does that have to do with, starting and running a business? But it does translate over the skills that you need.
Yeah, there are certain groups that we really look for to hire. Obviously, as a veteran, I understand that our veterans are great decision makers. They are great leaders as well as great followers,
Mhm.
and they're wonderful communicators. And then they have this mentality of just getting it done.
Yeah.
But you find those same traits in athletes. You find those traits in musicians. You find those traits in people who speak multiple languages. In every case, it requires a level of discipline. It requires a level of work ethic that are just, you don't find everywhere, but you can typically find them in those environments. And so we're proud to say that 40%, 30 now percent, given that we're growing so fast, 30% of our workforce are veterans. Our COO is a West Point graduate, Army officer, Harvard Business School graduate. We have a Naval Academy graduate, another West Point graduate, other Air Force Academy graduates. We're proud of our veteran workforce, both officer and enlisted, but we're also proud of the fact that we have people from academia with multiple graduate degrees. We have a PhD who was a professor in organizational theory. So we're just so loaded with talent, and I'm so impressed. And it's really the one thing that I'm most proud of about our organization, what we've accomplished to date. It's the amazing people that work on our team. I would put our talent level up against any company in the country.
I'm glad that you brought that up because I wanted to ask you about it. I had heard that y'all have hired a lot of disruptors within the company, people
Yeah.
that think entrepreneurially and who are not afraid to raise their hand and question things. So it's people from all backgrounds, right? They may have known nothing about aviation, some of them, but they bring talents and knowledge to the table.
Absolutely. We've got people, as I mentioned, from academia, people who've been entrepreneurs, people, we're greatly proud of our diversity. We have a female who runs our maintenance fleet services, another young lady who was MBAA, which is a National Business Aviation Association. She was 40 under 40. Just the talent level within our company, it comes from people who oftentimes weren't given a chance to lead organizations or to have leadership roles within an organization. And they can find a home here, and they can have, we look for 5 things. We call them our 5 C's for our culture when we're choosing talent to join our organization. Every resume is someone who's competent, but then we need someone who can communicate well, that has the courage to raise their hand with a good idea or to talk down a bad idea. To champion a good or bad idea requires the same amount of effort and courage. We want people who have and recognize their capacity and know when they can expand it or when they're at their limit. And then lastly, we just want people who are committed. They've demonstrated commitment to something. And that's where those athletes and athletes and musicians come in, those veterans. It requires a level of commitment that's important to the success of any organization. And those are our 5 C's. We look for those things. We're listening for them in conversations. So if you're coming to join us, thank you for applying. But you're joining an amazing team.
That's great. Yeah, so y'all remember the C's. I'll add them to the show notes after this. What would you think has been your biggest hurdle? And you might want to answer like in the very beginning, getting ready to launch, or during the business, anything. What do you think would be one of your biggest hurdles?
Yeah, we've had all kinds of hurdles. Aviation is such a complex business. There are regulatory challenges, there
Yeah.
are operational challenges, logistics challenges, and you're then on top of all of that, you're operating machines that have thousands of moving parts. in our case, operating a new aircraft in partnership, not necessarily in partnership, but with a supplier that's kind of new to the industry. So our biggest challenge to date really has just been to the introduction of fleet operations for the aircraft that we operate. The partnership and working alongside Honda Aircraft Company has really been a great challenge, but also a positive experience with some amazing people that we have a chance to work with. So biggest challenge is just introducing a new platform into the marketplace.
Yeah, I can imagine. And then they were pretty new when you started your company, right? They were just a few years old.
That's correct. They delivered their first airplane in December of 15, and we received our first airplane in December of 2018. So
That's crazy. And it's so cool though that now they get to be part of this disruptive story.
well, the Honda Jet is a disruption in itself, and you know I believe it's Gary Pisano and I forget the other instructor's name out at Stanford, and they outline Tony Seba is his name. They outline a disruption as requiring a leap in technology, a market that's being ready for it, and an innovative business model. And so we are the third stool there, or leg in the stool in that innovative business model. It was our recognition and the conversations that we had with the marketplace to tell us that the market was ready for it. And my time and experience flying around the Honda Jet for 3 years, being exposed to the company and the airplane, and the recognition that is such a superior product, that was kind of the three makings of a potential disruptor. After that, we've got to establish our brand, communicate the service, and we've got to execute. So
Yeah.
that's what we've been after.
And when you were coming up with your business model and your strategy, I'm sure that you went through, okay, you knew that people wanted the planes, but maybe couldn't use or couldn't afford or didn't want an entire plane. But I'm sure that you went through and pulled out other problems, and pulled them in, add them to the pile, if you will. And then also though, look for the positive things. For when somebody owns their own aircraft, what are the positive things that you can translate over to your service so they don't feel like they're missing out on that? Y'all have white glove service and dedicated pilots and
absolutely. Yeah, thank you for the question, Lisa. It's a great question. It gives me a chance to talk about Jetta a little bit.
Yeah.
In particular, we talked about those things that people did not like. They didn't want to spend $6 million on a whole airplane, or the cost to have a crew of pilots and the cost to maintain the airplane and to keep track of that. But what they loved about the Honda Jet was its low cost of operation. Well, at Jetta, you can take benefit of that low cost operation. We're only $1,800 an hour. In addition, when you buy an aircraft or a piece of an airplane, you can write off under the current tax code, you can write off 100% of the cost of that acquisition against your earnings that year. So in our case, a tenth of the airplane, $680,000, you can write off 100% or $680,000 from your earnings that year. So it wasn't just looking at the immediate needs of the customer, but it was also looking at the other elements that could support a business model. In this particular case, the tax code. And so then the other pieces that they wanted out of it was when you own your own airplane, it's yours when you want it, how you want it. So in other words, people are traveling on a certain day. They're not concerned about how many hours they're flying the airplane. I just need the airplane to get me from A to B on this particular day, next Wednesday, next Thursday, tomorrow. So we have a days-based model. And then the last piece of that is, again, taking those expenses for the crew, insurance, hangarage, sharing those with a group of people like those individuals who are looking for partners. All of those elements together created what we like to think of as an innovative business model. We are the first of our kind. There are other elements to it, and I'll spare you those details for time's sake. But that's how it all came together. And we took the good and the bad of what the market was excited about or bothered by, and we pulled it all together into Jetta.
Yeah, I've known people that own their own airplane and who had a private pilot on salary to be available 24 hours a day. And it's like, That's just a huge amount of money because that plane's just sitting there, the pilot's sitting there. They're there when you need it, but what
Right.
y'all have makes so much more sense. But so I have a question about how it works. So if I come in and I join, do I own an aircraft with X amount of people, or more like a member, and whatever aircraft is available when I need it is the one that I
Yeah,
would use?
we call ourselves a hybrid model because it's actually a little of both. We are a
Okay.
fractional program. You will have an aircraft or a piece of that airplane titled
Mhm.
to you, just like we have to title our cars in whatever state we're
Yeah.
in. We do the same thing through the FAA for aircraft. However, because we are a fractional program approved by the FAA, if your specific airplane that you share with a couple of other people is not available, we can bring any one of those aircraft in.
Okay.
Another unique piece to our business model is the majority of our airplanes are Honda jets. So they're all interchangeable in that you'll have the same custom seat experience. You'll have the same Wi-Fi experience. And all of those things are the same on every one of our Honda jets. And most recently, we added a couple of Gulfstreams. So those situations where you need to fly across the country or you need to take more passengers than we can take on the Honda jet, it's again just more value added and a response to what our customers have told us they needed.
Do you have, I know y'all are in Greensboro. Where else in America do you have aircraft, or are they all in Greensboro and then you fly them to where the client is?
We are right now a 23 airplane airline.
Wow.
The airplanes are spread out all across the country.
Yeah.
You
Okay.
talked about a white glove service. We have a 24/7 concierge team that's receiving the requests and the needs of our customers and share owners as to when they need the airplanes, and then providing anything that they might want on those flights. And our crew members show up. They're scheduled by our dispatching team. They show up with the airplane, fueled, ready to go on time to support that next customer and whatever that trip request was. So it's a very convoluted effort and a lot of machinations that take place behind the scenes. But
Yeah.
the airplanes are everywhere across the country.
Um, so like the concierge service and everything, is all that price included? Is everything part of the daily price, or they're like, a list that people go, I want this, I want that?
It's both customizable and you can have anything and everything that you want as long as it's legal.
Yeah.
It's all there, but and there's no additional cost to it. You pay for the specific item.
Okay.
If you'd like a bottle of champagne on the flight, or if you just like a car service to pick you up and be there at plane side when you arrive, we'll do all of the coordination. You only pay for the cost. A lot of companies will charge a surcharge or a management fee to do those things.
Yeah.
That's not us. We
That
are here
is
to serve and support.
that is so huge, because I know from working with other businesses, business owners and executives, it's such a hassle, even when they have people within the company who can set all that up. That's not what those people do all the time. And so for them to know, they don't even have to deal with it. All they have to do is tell you, this is what we want, and then they can forget about it and just show up. That's invaluable.
Exactly right, and it's one of the areas that we are growing and scaling in. We in some cases we've outgrown our market growth has exceeded our capability to support it, but we've been upscaling with some great talented people and bringing them on board. We had 3 more people start today, so it's exciting to see the growth and the need for this additional support to take care of our share owners.
That is exciting. It's exciting to see y'all grow so fast, but it's also exciting to see it be in an industry that's cutting edge and in a disruptive business model of that industry. So it's really good jobs. It's jobs for the future. It's not like it's a job entry level that somebody can, barely feed their family on. So I love that y'all have developed and are offering this great service, but it's such a great opportunity for all of the people that you're hiring.
Yeah, when you look at the most developed economies around the world, they have strong aviation systems.
Yes.
And so for us to contribute to that, we have operations here, of course, in Greensboro. We have operations in Millington, Tennessee, just outside of Memphis. We're setting up operations in the Dallas area. And then our airplanes are spread out across the country with hangar space in the Dallas area, out west in Chicago, South Florida. We're creating opportunity and jobs for people, and that's one of the things that I'm most grateful of, and I view as my highest level of responsibility
Yeah.
to take care of these team members. I think 165 now strong, just in the U.S. That doesn't include our
Wow.
Canadian operations. It doesn't include Vishal and Jet Club efforts in Europe. So
Gosh,
we've grown
that's
quickly.
amazing. And the thing is, y'all are making a difference in so many people's lives.
Yeah.
Their entire family, what you're doing. I just love stuff like that. That what you're doing is rippling out. It's rippling out through the economy, through your local economy, through the national economy, but also through those families. So I think
Yeah.
that's really cool. I want to
Yeah.
ask you, one of the hardest things in developing a disruptive product or disruptive business model is people, a lot of times they just don't get it. So a lot of times when you're first starting out, you spend so much time trying to get people to get it, get people to see it. Have you had that problem at all?
It
Probably
was.
not with the customers, I
Yeah.
guess, but maybe with others.
And initially, as you're building out the model, and I'm so fortunate to have some amazing mentors and just people that were great friends that were willing to listen.
Yeah.
It was challenging to get people to accept a new business model, accept the utilization of a new aircraft with that business model.
Mhm.
But we were able to communicate the story. As I mentioned, we spent 2 years to build the model, and Vishal and I are both aviators, at various different levels, but we talk a lot about being an aviation company run by aviators.
Yeah.
So with every turn, we understand the marketplace. I would list Vishal as one of three people in the world with his upbringing and experience, and growing up in the eastern half of the world, learning all things in aviation here, and then going back into that environment to build the relationships that he has there. It's that diversity of experience that we bring to Jedit. My military background and experience also different and unique, and then all of the wonderful people that we've surrounded ourselves with. Um, Sorry, am I
No,
still
that's
there? Okay.
okay. I think we
Uh,
both froze up a little. I'm not sure.
um, so it's kind of all of those things together
Mhm.
have really resulted in us being able to build this company and accomplish what we've accomplished to date.
And that's a great point about diversity because a lot of people don't understand the intrinsic value of it. They look at it more as, from the human value, the human perspective of diversity because you want to include people. But no,
Yeah.
diversity actually makes you stronger because it brings in all these different viewpoints, all these different experience sets and skill sets to give you strength that you would never have otherwise.
Absolutely. I mean, diversity has nothing to do with, or it has more to do with the person's experience,
Yeah.
their economic background, their ethnic background. All of those things together collectively describe their whole experience or their lifelong experience. And those experiences are what they bring to our business. It's good or bad, those are the things that we want. We want that unique diversity of thought
Mhm.
that was informed by their personal experience. There's a professional, but there's also the personal piece, and
Mhm.
that's where we look for those things as we're looking to bring people to join our organization.
Yeah, because those different experiences, even if it's personal experience, not work experience, it informs how you think and how you approach problems. And so, one person that grew up in this set of circumstances might see it totally different than you, might ask totally different questions, and you end up coming up with an even better solution because of all the
Yeah.
heads put together.
Yeah, if we all went to the same high school, the same college, and the same church, we're going to probably make decisions very similarly. And then you end up in a groupthink situation and you miss out on that outside idea, that out of the box thinking to, hey, let's do things a little bit differently. Let's do more philanthropy in our organization. Let's connect with the marketplace in a different way. And those are all things that make up disruption. How else are we communicating with the market? How we develop our business model, how we serve our customers. Those are all things that can be brought forward and have been brought forward by the unique and diverse thinking that we have throughout our company.
Yeah. Yeah. And you mentioned philanthropy. There's so many companies who don't understand or appreciate the value of philanthropy. You're doing it to help people, but there is actually a business value. It becomes part of your culture. And it shows your own values, the types of things that you support. It helps build a bond with your customers and with the marketplace. And, too many just look at it as just a donation, rather than the big picture of what it means.
Yeah, we are very focused on always making positive contributions. By positive contributions, that can be with our team members working in a soup kitchen. It could be offering our service to someone. It could be supporting through mentorship in schools. But those positive contributions through philanthropy of any sort, it just helps us be a company that society hopefully wants to exist. So there's the service to our customers. There's a service to our employees. As the managing member of our company, there's a service to the shareholders in our business, and but there's also the service to our community. We have to make sure that we are giving attention to each of those areas. We design the business model to do so because it's in line with my core values, Vishal's core values, and those values outline who we are as a business.
And interestingly, one of my friends, Stacy Houston, is the executive director of Kevin Bacon's 6 Degrees organization. And we were talking about one day, and she had the actual numbers, and I don't remember the numbers, but how much more fulfilled employees are when they are able to blend their work with giving back in some way, whether it's during work or not, but just that it brings so much more personal fulfillment to them, and they end up being happier in their jobs.
Yeah, Lisa, tomorrow morning I fly to Austin. We're sponsoring or have been a sponsor for a number of events with Heart Gift. And Heart Gift brings young children from the outer reaches in countries where they don't have the medical support that they need to perform heart conditions or heart surgeries on their hearts, nurse them back to health, and then they send them home with a cure for the rest of their lives. And essentially, it's giving them life. It's giving them time, which is what we do as an organization. But we also extended that into our ownership group. Our share owners who buy a piece of the airplane, they can offer days that they don't use or want to use and share those days with organizations like Be the Match, Wounded Warrior, Veterans Airlift, Pilots and Paws, which supports finding homes for pets. It's such a blessing to be able to share those things with our customers, with our team members and employees, and with our community. It's just who we are as an organization, and it's making a positive contribution that we're most focused on.
That's really cool that you have it integrated in the business model so well. And the hearts thing, I've heard about that organization and I've read lots of articles about it. So that is amazing what y'all are doing. And then, as you said, sending them home to live a full life, that I'm going to cry. I mean, that's just so awesome. Let me ask you really quickly. So you talked about the other nonprofits that owners can make days available. Is there a way that if somebody's listening and they are with a nonprofit, is there a way that they can reach out and kind of get on the list? Or do the owners just say, I like these, these are the people that I would want to have my days? Or do you have it both ways?
Yeah, it really just kind of depends. It's the owners. We're always willing and ready to have conversations. Dr. Akir Khan is our vice president of strategy here at Jedit, and he's the one who receives those messages. So you can just email us at info@gojetit.com to
Okay.
reach us in reference to a nonprofit that someone may be involved in. But if our owners bring something to us, Patient Airlift Services, one of our share owners recently, who's also one of our owner pilots, he took a young lady and flew her and her family on one of his days. And so it's something that he did when he owned his own airplane. And now that he's a share owner with Jetit, he did the exact same thing, utilizing one of his days. So, and that was a company and a nonprofit that we were not in a relationship with that he brought to us.
Okay. That's amazing. Now, if somebody's interested in working with y'all in being hired or in being a supplier or something like that, is there a place on y'all's website that to apply for jobs or to reach out as a potential supplier?
There sure is. It's careers@gojetit.com. For those suppliers, they can reach us at info@gojetit.com. We are always looking for things that coincide with what we do. The gifting of the days, the sharing our services with those nonprofits that use private aviation. But when it comes to new partners and vendors, we're interested in organizations that coincide with travel, coincide with experience. Those are the things that we're most focused on and are happy to have those conversations.
Okay. I want to ask you about, was it your master's that you got after you got out of the Air Force?
I did.
Or MBA?
Yeah, I started a graduate degree through Embry-Riddle while I was in the service, and then completed that after leaving during my time at Gulfstream. I also got my MBA from the Moore School of Business at the University of South Carolina. In every turn, is if I had an option for something to study, it was always aviation focused. I was very much fascinated by the industry, and the MBA helped me round out the business side of the industry. But it was then being able to support that and understand better where I didn't have a ton of expertise. Because of that education, I knew where to find the support and help to fill out my voids of knowledge.
Did you feel did you have any growing pains, like transitioning from the military back to civilian, or from university to a regular civilian job? Did you have any transition, not really problems, but just kind of things that were hard to deal with?
It was a very interesting shift from the military environment where everything is provided for you and is catered to. I think that one of the biggest challenges was I had to go shopping after wearing a flight suit for 10 years straight, and basically throwing on a pair of pajamas and zipping them up, big onesie. That was a unique experience for me. But the transition really wasn't too challenging. It did take some getting used to in communicating with a different career set. And oftentimes as military members, we have a hard time separating the mission from the day-to-day and the communication with superiors. It was very much a yes, sir, I will. But that oftentimes isn't helpful in the civilian workplace. On the academic side, it was just constant recognition of, wow, there's so much that I didn't know. But I'm so grateful for that well-rounded academic experience at the Moore School, at Embry-Riddle. I'm proud to serve on the board for Embry-Riddle for their worldwide campus now, to give back to that organization. So,
well, and you're such a great success story for both of those schools,
Yeah. Well, I hope they think so. I'm excited to be able to just continue to promote what I've been able to accomplish through the academic experience that the Air Force Academy, Embry-Riddle, Aeronautical University, and the Moore School of Business at the University of South Carolina have provided for me.
That's amazing. Yeah, I love it. Let me see. Hannah Cushing, Not sure if you know, she says, I love this jet business model. Great work, Glenn and Jet team. Thanks for Lisa. Thank you, Hannah. I don't know if you know Hannah or not, but thanks, Hannah. We appreciate you being here.
Thank you so
Oh,
much.
and then another one of my friends, Mohawk Matt Denny, he's a Marine veteran. He said, hey.
Awesome.
So,
Whoa. All right. Thank you. One of our maintenance managers is a recently retired lieutenant colonel in the from the Marine Corps. He does a little bit of flying, but he also leads some of our maintenance efforts. And so just an amazing individual. Simplified
nice.
to my
Well,
Marine
I'm
brother.
going to tell you a funny story on myself. This has nothing to do with your company, but just talking about the military. My husband's retired Navy, and so this just reminded me of this when you were talking about having to, you didn't have to worry about what you wore. When we very first got married, he'd already been in the Navy 20 years by then. We were together 6 more years before he retired, but I mean, he'd been dressing himself for 20 years. He didn't need me to dress him. So, I didn't know anything about his uniforms. Well, it was January. We were in Florida, and a helicopter crashed in Maine on a
Oh, man.
mountainside, and he had to fly up to be the inspector or whatever. And so he called. He's like, I need you to take, these shoes and this, that, and the other over to NAS Jax. So I take it over there, and he calls me that night. I don't mind embarrassing myself, so I just think it's funny. He's like, you sent me 2 different shoes. We were in Florida, so he was wearing brown shoes. So, the
Sure.
brown shoe. So, I mean, I went and got 2 black shoes. And of course, there were the dress black shoes for
Oh,
to go with his
no.
best dress. And then there were the regular black shoes. I just looked at them. They're shiny black. Obviously, if I looked closely. So he's up there in Maine with 1 shoe. Everybody
Oh,
was
no.
laughing at him. And he said, I had to go over to NAS Jax and take that other shoe in a brown paper bag. The guy was dying. He was very polite. He did not laugh, but you could tell he knew what was in that bag.
Sure.
And so just you talking about your flight suit. I don't know why. It made me remember that. That's been 32 years ago, but
Wow, that's awesome. But it's funny as an entrepreneur. Sometimes you're really tired, and there have been times I have a pair of black boots and a pair of brown boots. They're the same style shoe, but they're of course different colors. And you leave the house some mornings, you're just so tired, getting ready to go do another day, and I walked out of the house with a brown and a black boot on.
well, I don't feel so bad then.
So, yeah, we're on the same wavelength here, Lisa.
Yeah. Well, I have enjoyed having you here so much. I know that my audience and followers are going to love hearing your story. Tell them how they can find out more, like your website and everything. Tell them how they can find out more, because I know I probably have some followers that may be interested in your services.
Yeah, thank you for that, Lisa. It's just very simple. You can find us on our website. It's gojetit.com. Of course, we have a number of social media, and it's typically just Go Jet It, or you can type in Jet It. Jet It is 2 words, but gojetit.com, or just Go Jet It on any of the social media platforms. We have a new TikTok, which we're excited about sharing some of the new things that we're doing in our organization. Again,
Good.
focus on trying to
Is that
disrupt.
launched yet?
It is up and running,
Okay.
absolutely, and I think it's just
I
Go
need to
Jet
go
It
check
on
it out.
TikTok.
I can't wait. Is Dr. Khan up there dancing or anything?
He is dancing. Well, not on that, but we had a really fun weekend with the NBA All-Star Weekend, and so we have some clips and moments from that experience, and we've got some fun things coming up this weekend. So stay tuned for that, and then more like our philanthropic events, and just so much that we just want to share about the experience of being in at private aviation.
Well, I'm glad that you mentioned TikTok. I mean, I want everybody to go check out everything, but I'm glad that you mentioned TikTok. I definitely need to go check that out, and it'll be fun to see what y'all do, because there's so many people who still haven't figured out how to use it in their business. So it's going to
I'm
be
one of
fun
them.
to see what y'all do.
Yeah, I'm definitely one of them, Lisa. I'm
Oh,
still working on it.
yeah. Glenn, I want to thank you again for being here. I really appreciate your time. And I need to get down there to Greensboro one day and check out y'all's um, facility, and we need to get y'all up here to Virginia International Raceway to hang out with Racing for Heroes and the NASCAR driver I work with. Have
You,
some
you
fun.
can you can count us in. Let's make sure to do that on both sides. I'd
Okay.
love to walk you through the hangar and our airplanes, our offices here in downtown Greensboro. We're expanding as we've been growing. So come see us, and we'll return the favor.
Okay, nice. Thank you so much again for your time, Glenn. And everybody in the audience, thanks so much for joining us. And I hope you'll be back next week. Thanks. Bye, Glenn.
Hi, Lisa. Thank you.
Thanks.